What's up, guys? Welcome back. So today I want to talk about range in striking. Now, I see a lot of people when they first start out, or maybe even people with a lot of experience, they'll tend to jam certain strikes when working the heavy bag or pads in order to make up the space for another strike. And I want to explain to you how to avoid doing that. So let's say I'm standing in front of my opponent, right? Whether I'm in a Muay Thai stance on the back foot, whether I'm in more of a kickboxing stance with a 50-50, or even a little bit heavy on the front leg. I want to make sure that every strike I throw during a combination or consecutively makes the appropriate striking distance to the bag. So first off, the jab. Understand that if I was standing in front of my opponent and I can touch them with the jab, they can also hit me. So normally I want to be standing that one step distance away from the opponent so that I can step to jab them. Now, if I want to work my way in so that I don't have to use the step jab, I can step with my jab and bring my rear foot forward. So now I'm in striking range. Now, typically speaking, if you're throwing a jab on a target, once you make contact with that jab, your cross should be able to meet them. There's even some cases where if your jab falls a little bit short of a target, if you can bring the right foot up and turn your hip all the way over, you can still catch them. So basically, throwing a jab cross, your right hand would travel a little bit more than your left hand. Me personally, I like to have them line up on the same target, so that way I'm hitting them while my hips are square on my right hand. That's subjective. There's a lot of different opinions out there. Some people feel you should turn the hip over more, but that's a bit more of a boxing style. So the straight punches are essentially equal distance. Now, when it comes to the hooks, you can adjust your hook to make it long so that if you threw a cross, your left hook meets the mark by you extending your arm and using your hip forward to adjust a little bit of a distance. Very similar, if I throw a jab, I can make my right hook the same distance by sliding up my right foot just like I did with the jab cross. When it comes to body shots, typically they can also be thrown long. I'm not a big fan of that. But if you want to throw tight hooks, you need to understand that the distance of a jab cross is just too long to be landing these tight hooks and uppercuts, okay? So in that case, what you would want to do is you'd want to be able to move in on the right hand to rip a tight left hook. Or like I said before, you would just have to make your left hook long enough that it meets the mark. And then you can always slide in with your other shots, okay? Now, a good way to practice this concept of distance control with your punches is work on a bag that doesn't move. Most bags move, and most coaches agree that it's good when the bag moves a little bit. What's good about the stationary bag is it essentially gives you one y-axis going down, in which you're going to move along the x-axis to make up for certain distances, okay? So we can even bring the kicks into that, okay? I got my typical round kick. Now, how long is a round kick? The answer is, one, it's very dependent on your personal leg to arm ratio as it pertains to your height as well. There's a couple different metrics going on there. But also it's a matter of if you're kicking with your instep, the lower part of the shin, or the upper part of the shin, because each of those is going to give you a little bit different of a distance. You see, if I kick with my instep or even the edge of my toes, that's going to be the longest way to kick. You know, if you're using a karate style and you're snapping, or if you're driving the hip Muay Thai style, that foot is going to be longer than the shin. Now I can go a little higher on my shin, which would require me to step a little bit deeper and closer. And then lastly, I have my upper shin bone where I'm getting my hip all the way across, turning my hip over and coming at the front of them like a baseball bat swing. That's going to be closer. Now, the way these compare to the punches is that obviously if I can hit them with a round kick, if I don't step, I can't land my punches. However, a lot of times, things like kicking with the upper part of the shin and throwing low kicks will match very well with your punches because they're sort of operating at the same distance. So if, let's say, for example, I throw a jab cross, long left hook. I throw a low kick with the upper part of my shin. When I land, my left tight hook is right there. So you saw what happened. The first left hook was long. I stepped in with the low kick and then popped back up with a tighter left hook because I brought myself forward. Very similar, if I were to throw a very tight left body shot, there isn't really a lot of room for me to throw this low kick. So the same way I adjusted the distance moving forward, I can also adjust the distance pulling back. So jab, cross, tight left body hook. I'm going to make up the distance by drawing my left leg back and sending the right. You see what I did there? It's not like a comfortable low kick where I'm just all forward. I'm actually doing a foot replacement. That's another example of managing distance. The longest weapon you will have typically is going to be your teeps. Now the reason the teep is the longest weapon is because it comes from a stance of you being on the back foot, which is why if I just lift my leg and push, I can just touch them with the balls of my foot. If I can't punch them from here, they probably can't punch me, but I can teep them back, okay? This is very famously used by Bukaw in his K1 fights, aside from his longer range round kicks. Now, you might ask, what's longer, the lead teep or the rear teep? And some people could say that they have a pretty equal distance, but I'm going to tell you it's probably the right teep. And the reason is because if we break it down, by the time I lift my hips square or even right hip forward, I'll do it in front of the bag so you can see. The amount of distance that right teep will reach, even if I slide up with the left, is just longer than the left. So the right teep, longest weapon. The left teep, second longest weapon, okay? Things like the low left kick with the instep, also very long. I can do a very long step jab if I'm just boxing and I'm not worrying about my left leg getting kicked. I can throw a switch kick, throw it long with the foot, or I can just slide up, Taekwondo karate style and lift and throw a long left kick. Okay, then you get into the right side. I can throw a pretty long range round kick if I use my instep. But then we get into the closer stuff. If I want to hit with the shin, I got to get a little close. Even with the switch kick, throwing up on that 45-degree angle, I might have to get a little closer. You know, if you throw head kicks, you may have to be a little bit closer. Because if you think of the angle, my leg is only so long, like a yardstick, it's going up. So like trigonometry, I'm going to have to be a little closer. Does that kind of make sense? Like your body kick will always be your longest round kick because you're only sticking your leg straight out. Now, once you get in tight, you also have the knees. Some people are very talented. They can throw their knee from very far away, maintaining power. They switch in, they throw the left lead knee, stuff like that long knee tie style. Those knees typically go very well with those mid-range hooks because if I throw a right knee, I can land my left hook off that, or I can land a long left hook, and that creates the lane for this knee to fit right in there, okay? And typically speaking, when you see guys in kickboxing use their knees, there's a lot of times where they'll be grabbing hands and grabbing the head as they use their knee, which is further proof that it goes very well when in conjunction with the punching range. So let me give you some more combinations managing range. You guys get fully the concept. So I'm out of range. I can't hit this guy. I step in, jab, cross. I pop back out. I'm out again, right? I step in with a jab. I throw a right low kick. I step myself back out. See, if I throw a right low kick, if I step my foot right back behind me, I'm still in punching range, but I'm in their punching range. If I'm out here, I took a step to jab. I throw the low kick. I can step my foot all the way back to where it was starting. And then if I want to keep them back, I can slide up and hit them with a teep. So let me do that one again. I'm out of range. I'm not even in their punching range. I step in jab. I throw a low kick. I step it all the way back out. I slide up. I teep them. I'm managing distance here, right? I'm teeping this guy. I'm using my longest weapons. I feint the teep, I hit him. So I get myself in and I step myself back out. And a lot of times when you step yourself back out, if they don't follow you, it's good for you because you got out of the pocket. However, if they do follow you, it's oftentimes the best time to hit them again. So I'm working long range. I step in. I step out. I step in again and I hit them as they come in to chase me, okay? Very often when you spar, you fight, depending on how aggressive your opponent is, if you're in like a jabbing range with them, you guys are exchanging these lead weapons. If you take a step out, they will follow you to maintain a distance. That's when you go back in, okay? So assuming that your opponent wants to meet you in the center of the ring, the octagon, whatever it is, the mat space, if you have a feeling that although they're not throwing wild, they want to maintain a very preferred range, just pull back and see what they do. Do they close that range instantly? Do they instantly creep up? Or do they more observe what it is you're doing and maybe safely feint and walk their way back in? That can determine a lot about the fighter. If you step to the right, do they take that same step with you? Do they cut you off? Do they just observe you and just sort of adjust like a pivot? These are all the reactions that you want to do to maintain range. Because understand, if we're standing in front of each other, if I can step jab this guy and he doesn't really move back, he sort of lets me come to him, I now know that I can actually use lateral movement to maybe dictate that. I can jab him moving to my right to set up angles. If I move to my left, he may take the step right here, but he also may just pivot. So now I can try to jab my way to the left and hit him, beating him to the punch. 2 jabs to the right, throw the right. I'm sorry, 2 jabs to the left, throw the right. Okay, and then a lot of times they're going to try to counter you if they're the guys that want to stay in and wait for you to come to them. So what you could do is you could get in, have a predetermined combination, throw it, and get yourself back out. Don't get too greedy. So I want to step in with a jab cross. I'm going to roll to the right, get myself out of there. I'm going to throw a jab cross, low left kick. I hit my double step back and pull myself out. I want to hit a jab cross, left hook, right low kick. I pull myself out there. I don't just stay there, okay? So hope this helped. Just very basic concept of range control. A lot of people don't always go over this. I noticed I never went over it on the channel, so I hope this video helps you guys. So like, comment, share, subscribe. Stay tuned for more.